Before you keep listening, pause for just a moment. Place your hand gently over your heart and take one slow, steady breath. Let yourself settle into this moment. Let the noise around you fade into the background. What you're about to hear is more than a series of sentences. It could be the message your heart has been quietly waiting to receive for a long time. If these words have reached you today, don't brush them aside as a simple coincidence. Sometimes the right message appears only when we are finally ready to understand it. There may be a reason your emotions have felt deeper than usual. There may be a reason old memories have been returning without warning, showing up in quiet moments when you least expect them. Somewhere, someone has been carrying your name in silence. They have been holding thoughts they never found the courage to speak. They have replayed moments, conversations, and unfinished feelings more times than you could ever know. And now, little by little, life is arranging the circumstances for something important to happen. Someone is preparing to step into your life with something they have kept hidden for far too long. Before you hear what comes next, take another slow breath. Stay present. Stay open. Because this message is not meant to feel ordinary. If it has found you now, maybe it is because your heart is finally ready to hear what it could not hear before. Keep listening, because what comes next may connect pieces you never realized belonged together. There is someone, whether they are still in your life or someone from your past, who thinks about you much more often than you realize. Their silence has never meant the absence of feeling. They may have stepped away. They may have acted as if everything was behind them. From the outside, it could have seemed like they had moved on without looking back even once. But inside, something has been changing. Quietly, slowly, day after day. A realization has been growing stronger until it became impossible for them to ignore. The emotions they once tried to control have continued to return. The memories they pushed away have refused to disappear. Every attempt to convince themselves that they were finished has only brought your presence back into their thoughts. Soon, this person will find their way toward you. It will not feel like an accident. It will not be just another ordinary conversation or an unexpected meeting with no meaning behind it. They are coming because carrying these unspoken feelings has become heavier than staying silent. The truth inside them has reached a point where it wants to be spoken. And what happens next may surprise you more than you expect. So don't skip this part, because the next few moments could completely change the way you see everything that has happened until now. There is something they have kept hidden for a long time, and now they feel a strong need to finally tell you. It is a truth they have carried quietly, protecting it from everyone, even from themselves. What they are about to say may surprise you more than you expect. It may explain why this meeting has started to feel almost impossible to avoid. Some connections seem to follow their own path, beyond simple logic or easy explanation. Time can pass, distance can grow, silence can last for months or even years. Yet certain emotional bonds refuse to fade away. They stay alive beneath the surface, untouched by pride, confusion, missed opportunities, or physical distance. Maybe you've noticed unusual moments lately. Thoughts of this person appeared in your mind for no clear reason. You suddenly heard their name during an ordinary conversation. They showed up in your dreams with surprising detail. Or perhaps you felt a wave of emotion that seemed to come from nowhere, leaving you wondering why it felt so real. Many people call experiences like these simple coincidence. Others see them as quiet reminders that some emotional connections continue even when two people have not spoken for a long time. It can feel as if an invisible thread still connects two lives, gently pulling their thoughts back toward each other despite the silence that stands between them. Whether you see these moments as intuition, meaningful timing, or simply your mind returning to an unfinished story, they often carry a powerful emotional weight. Stay with this until the end, because what comes next may change how you understand everything that has happened. Long before they even thought about reaching out, they tried everything they could to bury these emotions. They filled their schedule with work. They kept themselves busy with new routines. They focused on distractions, hoping constant movement would quiet what they were feeling inside. They repeated to themselves that they had already let go. They convinced themselves that life had moved forward and the past belonged where it was. But every time the world became quiet, especially during the late hours of the night, one thought always returned: you. No matter how hard they tried to silence it, your memory continued finding its way back into their mind. The moments you shared never completely disappeared. Instead, they waited quietly beneath the surface until another memory pulled them back into focus. Over time, emotions that remain unspoken begin creating a pressure that becomes impossible to ignore forever. Eventually, something inside asks to be released. That is why this meeting feels as though it has been slowly building for much longer than either of you realized. Nothing about it feels rushed. It feels like the result of countless silent moments finally reaching the same destination. Don't click away now, because the next part reveals what has truly been happening inside their heart and why they can no longer pretend everything is the same. From the outside, they probably appear completely fine. They may look confident, they may seem successful, they may even give the impression that they are genuinely happy and fully at peace with their life. But appearances rarely tell the whole story. Beneath that calm surface, they have been caught in a quiet battle that almost no one around them would recognize. Their mind keeps returning to the moments the two of you shared together. They remember the sound of your voice. They picture your expressions. Conversations that once seemed ordinary now carry a meaning they never noticed before. Small details they ignored at the time have become impossible to forget. Again and again, the same questions continue moving through their thoughts. Why are these feelings still here? Why has moving on been so difficult? Why has no one else created the same connection? Those questions have slowly led them toward a realization they never expected to face. The answer has not been easy because it asks them to admit something they spent a long time avoiding. You meant far more to them than they were ever willing to say out loud. Even harder than that is accepting another truth. They are beginning to understand that what happened between the two of you was not only about timing or difficult circumstances. Deep inside, they can finally see that many of the choices they made helped create the distance that now feels so difficult to erase. And once a person reaches that level of honesty with themselves, everything begins to change. They now see something they refused to recognize before. They did not truly value the connection while they still had the chance, and that understanding has become impossible to ignore. It follows them into quiet moments. It stays with them when everything else becomes still. You may be asking yourself a simple question. If they have been feeling all of this, why did they stay silent for so long? The answer is more complicated than it first appears. It was never only about not caring. Fear stood in front of every step they wanted to take. They feared rejection. They feared finding out that your life had become happier without them. They feared your confidence, your growth, and the possibility that you no longer needed them at all. More than anything, they feared facing the choices they wish they could erase. Staying quiet felt safer than risking complete honesty. As long as no conversation happened, they could avoid looking directly at the consequences of what had taken place. But silence comes with a price. Every day they delayed reaching out. The words left unspoken grew heavier inside them. What once felt like protection slowly turned into emotional exhaustion. The silence they depended on no longer brought comfort. Instead, it became a constant reminder of everything they had never said. Eventually, avoiding the conversation became harder than having it. That was the moment they understood that silence could never give them the peace they had been searching for. Stay with this, because the next part reveals the unexpected event that changed everything. Not long ago, something happened that completely changed the direction of their thoughts. It may have looked like an ordinary moment from the outside. Maybe they saw you smiling in a photo. Maybe someone casually mentioned your name. Maybe they returned to a familiar place that quietly reminded them of you. Or perhaps they found themselves surrounded by people while still feeling deeply alone inside. Whatever the moment was, it reached a part of them they could no longer hide from. Suddenly, one thought became impossible to ignore. If I never tell the truth, I may carry this regret for the rest of my life. That realization did not come from impulse. It was not caused by a temporary emotional wave. It came from something much deeper. A quiet certainty settled inside them, telling them they could no longer keep their feelings locked away. This is not simply about catching up or exchanging polite conversation. They are not coming back just to ask how you have been. They are coming because too much has remained unsaid for far too long. They want to speak about the emotions they hid behind pride, the regrets they carried in silence, the feelings they kept pushing away, hoping they would disappear on their own, even though they never truly did. Don't skip this next part, because what they are preparing to say may completely change the way you see the past. For a long time, you may have believed they were emotionally distant, unaffected, or completely disconnected from everything that happened between you. But the truth may be far different than it seemed. They cared much more deeply than they ever allowed themselves to show. Their feelings reached further than their actions ever revealed. Most of what they experienced stayed hidden behind fear, hesitation, uncertainty, and the inability to fully open their heart. Understanding that could change the way you remember every silent moment between you. The words they have been holding inside are not something they have shared with anyone else. They have imagined this conversation countless times, searching for the right way to explain everything they have carried for so long. In their thoughts, they have replayed every possible outcome. They pictured your expression. They imagined your silence. They wondered about your questions. They even prepared themselves for the possibility that you might simply turn around and walk away. Yet they kept returning to the same conclusion. Living with uncertainty forever would be harder than finally speaking the truth. When they eventually stand in front of you, what they reveal will not only be about the past. It will be the honesty they wish they had found the courage to speak from the very beginning. And what happens after those words are finally spoken may surprise both of you in ways neither of you expected. No matter how many times they have imagined this conversation, they still cannot predict what will happen when the moment finally arrives. They have gone over every sentence in their mind. They have practiced different versions of the truth. They have pictured your reaction more times than they can count. Yet one thing has become impossible to deny. They can no longer pretend that everything is fine. Whatever the outcome may be, they know they have to speak with complete honesty. Even if telling the truth means risking everything they still hope for, they would rather face that uncertainty than continue hiding behind silence. The words they have wanted to say are simple, but saying them feels incredibly difficult. I was wrong. I didn't value what we had the way I should have. I didn't understand how to care for you the way you deserved. For someone who has spent so much time protecting their pride, admitting those words feels harder than losing the relationship itself. Lowering those emotional walls demands a kind of courage they have avoided for years. Sometimes the hardest battle is not with another person, but with the truth we keep hiding from ourselves. Stay with this, because what they discovered after losing you explains everything that happened next. Sometimes only distance can reveal what constant closeness never could. When someone is always there, it becomes easy to overlook the quiet value they bring into everyday life. Only after they are gone does their absence become impossible to ignore. That is exactly what has been happening inside them. Time has changed their perspective. They have started noticing qualities in you they once accepted without fully appreciating. Your calm presence brought a peace they never understood until it disappeared. Your loyalty was never temporary. It was real. Your kindness was never an act. It came from a sincere place. As they continued moving through life, they found themselves comparing new experiences and new people with the connection they once shared with you. Again and again, something felt incomplete. Not because everyone else lacked value, but because what the two of you shared carried a depth they failed to recognize while it was still in front of them. Now they understand that your connection was never ordinary. It was never just another relationship or another passing season of life. It was the kind of bond many people search for over many years without ever finding. Even now, that realization continues to grow stronger. Don't skip the next part, because it reveals why meeting you again feels both exciting and terrifying at the same time. As much as they want to see you again, they are equally afraid of what comes after that first conversation. Once the truth is spoken, there is no returning to comfortable silence. Everything changes when honesty enters the room. They know they are risking disappointment. They may face rejection. They may discover that your life has completely moved forward without them. They may receive the closure they spent so long avoiding. Even so, they have realized something even more difficult. Living forever with unanswered questions and quiet regret feels heavier than facing whatever answer you choose to give. That is why they are choosing courage instead of comfort, even though courage offers no promises. At the same time, this story is not only about their journey, it is also about yours. You are no longer the same person you once were. Life has changed you. Challenges have strengthened you. Hard lessons have made you wiser and emotionally stronger. Because of that growth, if this meeting happens, approach it with a clear mind instead of unrealistic expectations. Listen carefully, but do not be carried away by beautiful words alone. Notice their actions. Watch whether their choices match what they say. Words can create hope, but lasting change is always revealed through consistent actions. Real honesty is shown, not simply spoken. Trust what you see just as much as what you hear, and when the moment finally arrives, you may feel the difference before anyone says a single word. The atmosphere may feel heavier than expected, filled with emotion, quiet anticipation, and everything left unsaid for so long. There may be long pauses, meaningful glances, and silent moments that communicate more than any speech ever could. Whether you see this meeting as perfect timing, intuition, or simply the result of unfinished emotions, it carries an important purpose. Its purpose is not necessarily to bring two people back together. Its purpose is to bring hidden truth into the light. Sometimes honesty opens the door to a new beginning. Other times it brings the peaceful closure both hearts have quietly needed. After carrying these emotions for so long, there is one truth they can no longer keep inside. They never truly stopped caring about you. They tried to convince themselves otherwise. They buried themselves in work, filled their days with new routines, searched for distractions, and perhaps even welcomed new people into their life. They believed time alone would slowly erase what they felt. But real emotions rarely disappear simply because we decide they should. They wait patiently beneath the surface until the truth is finally ready to be spoken. Instead, those emotions remain quietly beneath the surface, returning whenever life becomes still enough for the heart to hear them again. They never truly disappear. They simply wait. And with time, pretending becomes far more exhausting than accepting what is real. That is where they find themselves now. They are finally ready to admit what they have been denying for so long, not because they know how everything will end, but because they can no longer live as though those feelings never existed. Whatever happens after this conversation, life will not return to exactly the way it was before. Maybe this moment opens the door to a completely new chapter built on honesty, trust, and deeper understanding. Or maybe it becomes the conversation that finally gives both of you the peace to move forward without carrying unanswered questions. Either outcome has meaning because unfinished stories have a way of staying in the heart far longer than we expect. When the truth is finally spoken, something changes inside. The uncertainty slowly begins to fade. In its place comes a quiet sense of peace that only honesty can create. Sometimes healing arrives through finding each other again. Sometimes healing arrives through acceptance. Both paths can bring something valuable. Stay with this until the end, because the next part is not only about them, it is about you and the choice you will make when this moment finally arrives. If this conversation ever happens, allow them the space to say everything they have been carrying inside for so long. Resist the urge to interrupt. Do not rush toward conclusions before hearing the full story. Let every word come out naturally before deciding what it truly means to you. Listen not only to what they say, but also to the honesty behind their voice and the consistency behind their actions. Then, when it becomes your turn to speak, answer from a place of calm instead of emotion alone. Clear thinking is often more powerful than a quick emotional reaction. Give yourself permission to take the time you need. Choose the response that protects your peace, respects your boundaries, and reflects the person you have become through every challenge you have faced. Above everything else, remember one important truth. You are not standing in this moment because life is testing you. You are standing here because you are being given something many people never receive, the chance to hear the truth. Whether that truth leads to a fresh beginning, deeper understanding, peaceful closure, or an entirely different direction, it offers something priceless. It replaces uncertainty with clarity. You survived the silence that once made you question everything. You carried yourself through disappointment. You learned, you healed, and you became stronger through experiences that once felt impossible to overcome. Never forget how far you have already come. And don't click away yet, because the final message may be the one your heart has been waiting to hear. Before this message comes to its end, pause for one last moment and ask yourself a simple question. What has it awakened inside you? Did it leave you feeling hopeful, peaceful, thoughtful, or did it bring a kind of clarity you had been searching for without realizing it? Sometimes life does not place answers in front of us simply to bring another person back into our lives. Sometimes the answers arrive to guide us back to ourselves. They help us reconnect with the part of us that became hidden beneath disappointment, unanswered questions, or emotional pain. We often believe clarity must come from someone else's explanation, but the deepest clarity usually grows from within. It appears when you finally recognize your own worth, your own strength, and the lessons your experiences have quietly been teaching you all along. If you have spent months or even years wondering why someone entered your life, why they walked away, or why certain emotions still remain, remember this. Not every journey is meant to end with reconciliation. Some connections exist to awaken something inside you. They encourage growth. They inspire healing. They help you discover parts of yourself that may have remained hidden without that experience. Even painful relationships can become powerful teachers when viewed through the perspective of personal growth instead of loss. Never doubt the honesty of what your heart once felt. If your connection felt real, then your emotions were real because they belonged to you. They were never meaningless simply because the outcome changed. Real feelings can exist even when life takes an unexpected direction. The value of the love you gave has never depended on whether someone stayed. Its value comes from the sincerity with which you gave it. And finally, let go of the belief that you imagined everything. After heartbreak, many people begin rewriting their own memories. They tell themselves they misunderstood every moment, cared too much, or were simply foolish for believing. But allowing yourself to love deeply has never been a sign of weakness. It is a sign that you were willing to experience life with an open heart. In a world where so many people hide behind emotional walls, that quiet courage is far more powerful than you may realize.